Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. I am so thrilled to have you here today because we're unpacking something that literally almost every single one of us has wrestled with at some point. We're diving deep into the psychology of relationship survival. We're going to use what I like to call the iceberg model. My goal for you today? It's to help you see past the surface level of your relationship conflicts and really understand the massive hidden dynamics operating underneath. So, should I stay or should I go? Man, it is one of the most agonizing, fundamental questions you can ever ask yourself in a partnership, right? If you've ever found yourself lying awake at 2 a.m., just staring at the ceiling, wrestling with those heavy doubts about your relationship, you know exactly how paralyzing this feels. It completely consumes you with this fear of making the wrong choice. But what if the way we've been framing this choice is completely flawed? Okay, let's dive straight into our roadmap for this. We'll start at the top of the iceberg with part 1, the illusion of perfect choices. Then we'll dip just below the waterline for part 2, changing the operating system. After that, we'll plunge deeper into part 3, what we actually fight for. And finally, we'll hit the very bottom with part 4, unmasking our deepest fears. All right, let's kick things off with section 1, the illusion of perfect choices. You know, so many of us delay making a decision because we're just sitting around waiting for 100% certainty. But we've got to bust that myth right out of the gate. Absolutely every choice comes with loss. The consequence of a choice is literally just the choice you didn't make. Look, if you decide to leave, you have to be prepared to grieve. You might grieve the good things that actually were, or honestly, sometimes you're just grieving the dream of what you hoped the relationship could have been. But look at the flip side. If you stay, you aren't immune to grief there either. You still have to grieve the part of you that will never know what your life would have been like if you had actually walked away. Feeling this grief doesn't mean you made the wrong choice, guys. It just means you made a human choice. I think this quote captures it absolutely perfectly. There is no choice that doesn't have loss, and therefore some grief attached to it. And we have to acknowledge just how intense that grief can be. Perel points out that for some people, an extreme breakup is experienced quite literally like a physical withdrawal. It can trigger the exact same centers in the brain as an addiction. Think about it, the heartbreak, the longing, the endless rumination. It really fractures you on the inside. Understanding this whole dynamic helps us approach our decisions and ultimately our healing with a whole lot more grace. Now, let's move a bit further down the iceberg to section 2, changing the operating system. So let's say you've made the choice to stay. Usually, your very first instinct is to just hand your partner a laundry list of things they need to change. But surprise, surprise, asking the other person to do all the heavy lifting rarely works. Instead, I want you to look at this interdependent figure 8 loop. In a relationship, you are interdependent parts of a system. I do something, which makes you do something, which makes me do something. It's a continuous, endless loop. But here's the magic. Step 1, if I change my reaction, like if I stop instantly walking out or I stop yelling, then step 2 kicks in. You literally cannot continue your usual behavior. If you yell and I just don't yell back, well, eventually you stop getting the reaction you're used to, right? And that leads right into step 3, the entire relationship dynamic shifts. A real game changer here is realizing the most powerful question to save a relationship isn't, what can you do? It's actually, what can I do differently? To put this into perspective, Jay Shetty shares this brilliant, highly relatable, and honestly kind of hilarious anecdote about washing the dishes. So in Jay's childhood home, the routine was pretty simple. Eat dinner, hang out for the evening, and then wash the dishes at the very end of the night. Pretty standard. But in his wife's home, the routine was eat, immediately wash the dishes so everything is spotless, and then you can finally relax and hang out. So they get married, and suddenly you have this massive colliding timeline. Jay is trying to playfully hang out at 8 p.m. while his wife is anxiously scrubbing dishes in the sink. And then by 9 p.m., when she's finally ready to sit down and relax, Jay is up cleaning. And you know, this brilliantly illustrates the concept of an operating system. Jay and his wife weren't really fighting about soap and water. They were operating on 2 completely different ingrained belief systems, their family backgrounds and routines, and just projecting them entirely onto each other. They both truly believed their own way was the right way. The big challenge in any relationship is that you can't just forcefully install your operating system onto your partner like a software update. You have to actually sit down and write a brand new, unified operating system together. All right, that brings us much deeper down the iceberg to section 3, what we actually fight for. I want you to act as a mirror right now and just reflect on your own past arguments. Because when these operating systems clash over seemingly mundane things, the visible argument on the surface is almost never what the fight is actually about.
I mean, how does a minor disagreement about what time to do the dishes escalate into this? You don't care about me, you don't love me, you don't appreciate me. It happens so incredibly fast, right? You might think to yourself, well, I just prepared this beautiful meal, I was so kind to your friends, and now you're leaving a massive mess? You clearly do not value my effort. And boom, a totally trivial point of contention suddenly mutates into these profound feelings of neglect.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that it reveals the secret language of your arguments. According to Perel, beneath the everyday bickering about dishes or who forgot to take out the trash, there are usually 3 hidden dimensions of conflict at play. You are fighting for power and control, you are fighting for trust and closeness, or you're fighting for value and respect. Once you figure out which of these hidden dimensions is actually driving the emotion, that silly fight about the dishes suddenly makes perfect sense.
As Perel says, it's not what you fight about, it's what you fight for. I really want you to take this quote and mentally apply it to the very last major argument you had. Seriously, think about it. Were you really fighting about that text message they forgot to send? Or were you actually fighting for trust and closeness? Because when you shift your perspective from the about to the for, you completely change the way you communicate with your partner. You stop just attacking their annoying habits, and you start actually expressing your core needs. And now we plunge to the very bottom, the darkest, deepest part of the iceberg, in section 4, unmasking our deepest fears. So, why exactly do we fight so hard for power and control? Why are we so terrified to just concede or be influenced by our partner's way of doing things? Well, it usually comes down to subconscious terrors. In almost every relationship, you're gonna find these 2 contrasting types of people, driven by completely opposite hidden fears. On one side, you have the person whose absolute deepest fear is abandonment and rejection. They're literally terrified of losing the other person, so their visible behavior is to acquiesce, to placate, to say yes, and completely give up their own power just to keep the peace. But on the other side, you have the person whose deepest fear is suffocation. They are terrified of losing their own identity, of being swallowed up by the relationship. So what do? Their visible behavior is to dig their heels in, passionately defend their way of doing things, and fight tooth and nail for control. So the absolutely crucial point here is this: the vast majority of power struggles in a relationship are not actually power struggles at all. Power is just a defense mechanism. It's just a surface behavior. When someone is terrified of suffocation, they try to deal with that massive fear by gaining control over the situation, even if it's just aggressively controlling when the dishes get washed. They aren't really fighting you. They are fighting their own internal fear of losing themselves. Which brings us to the core takeaway of this entire explainer. Don't just go for what you see. Go always looking at a level below. If you're only ever reacting to the raised voices, the shouting, or the silent treatment, the visible tip of the iceberg, you are going to be stuck in a never-ending cycle of conflict. You really have to pause and ask yourself, what happened to my partner that makes them interpret every single difference of opinion as a massive threat? And honestly, you have to be willing to look at a level below within yourself too. I want to leave you with this final, really striking question to chew on as we wrap up today. Can you still feel confident even if you don't trample somebody? Just think about that. Think about how you handle power, humility, and difference in your own everyday life. Does letting someone else influence you actually mean you lose your identity? Or could it be an expansion of who you are? Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer today. Keep looking below the surface, and I'll catch you next time.